So I think we're going to get started. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this December holiday edition of Trainee Talks. This will be our last session before we break for the winter before the winter semester. So I realize it's a very busy time of year, and I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to come out and listen to the Trainee Talks. Trainee Talks is a monthly webinar series showcasing the research topics of our CREATE graduate students in their area of expertise related to software engineering and AI. My name is Lori Akiyama, and I'm the program coordinator for CREATE at Concordia University, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. Today, we are pleased to have two PhD students from Polytechnique Montréal, Iren and Yang, with us to deliver their talks. Iren Mazloomzadeh is a doctoral candidate in computer engineering at the Software Analytics and Technologies Lab under the supervision of Dr. Futscom. Iren received her master's and bachelor's of science degrees in computer software engineering from Shiraz University and Persian Gulf University, respectively. Iren's paper on reputation gaming and crowd technical knowledge sharing was published in the ACM Journal in July, and she will be sharing her research findings with us today. Immediately following, we will hear from Yang Liu, also a PhD candidate in the SWAT lab at Polytechnique Montréal, under the supervision of Dr. Futscom. Yang's research interests focus on robustness of code generation models, and today he will be presenting his work on adversarial attack classification and robustness testing for code generation models, which is under submission to the MC Journal and forms part of his PhD thesis. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to view on our CREATE website at se4ai.org and also on our YouTube channel. Please keep yourselves on mute until the Q&A session at the end of each speaker. With that, I'd like to turn things over to Iren to begin her talk. Iren, please go ahead.
Thank you, Lori. I will share my screen. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Iren Mazloomzadeh. I'm really excited to present our research reputation gaming and crowd technical knowledge sharing. And this work was conducted in collaboration with Professor Ghiassuddin from York University, Professor Futscom, who is my supervisor, and Professor Ashnaz Sami from Edinburgh University. Our research focused on addressing a critical issue in online developer communities like Stack Overflow and the manipulation of reputation system. Stack Overflow is one of the key resources for developers seeking technical knowledge. Its reputation system incentivizes quality contributions by rewarding user with points and privileges. However, like any system, it's not immune to abuse. Fraudulent behavior, such as coordinated upvoting or targeted downvoting, can compromise the quality and the trustworthiness of the content. So our research tackled these issues by identifying fraudulent patterns and developing detection mechanisms. Our study had three main objectives. First, we aimed to identify and classify common scenarios where reputation manipulation occurs. Second, we developed algorithms to detect this manipulation automatically. And finally, we evaluated the effectiveness of these algorithms using real-world data. And this is significant because it is the first comprehensive study addressing reputation fraud on platforms like Stack Overflow. And our goal is not just academic insight, but also practical solution for community managers. In this slide, you can see our research workflow. We began by gathering data from Meta Stack Exchange sites, focusing on posts relevant to reputation fraud. And next, we analyze the data to identify and define common fraud scenarios, such as voting ring and so on. And then, based on these scenarios, we develop algorithms to detect suspicious behavior and patterns. And finally, we tested our algorithms to measure their precision and validated the result with real-world cases. So what is reputation? Based on the definition that Stack Overflow provides us, reputation is a rough measurement of how much the community trusts you. It's earned by convincing your peers that you know what you're talking about. In a Stack Overflow, user can earn reputation through various actions, such as receiving upvotes, having their answers accepted, and completing edits. A higher reputation unlock privileges, such as editing others' posts or moderating content. While this system incentivizes quality, it also opens door for manipulation. For instance, user can collaborate to boost each other's scores or target competitors through downvoting. So the challenge is balancing motivation with safeguards against abuse. And this slide outlines the major steps in our research process, divided into two parts: the first study and the second study. The first studies focus on understanding reputation fraud scenarios. This involves identifying and analyzing different types of reputation fraud occurring on a Stack Overflow. And the second study is detecting suspicious reputation. And using the insight from study one, we developed and implemented algorithms to identify suspicious reputation patterns. For the first study, we analyzed 1,697 posts from Stack Exchange meta forums where users discuss issues related to reputation manipulation. And through this analysis, we identified 4 common fraud scenarios: voting ring, bounty gaming, revenge voting, and closing ring, which the voting ring were the most common one. In this slide, you can see the 4 fraud scenarios that we could find. The voting ring focus. The voting ring means groups mutually upvotes each other's posts. And the bounty gaming means manipulating bounties for reputation. The revenge voting means downvoting to harm a user's reputations. And the closing rings mean coordinated post closure campaigns. For the second study, and to address reputation manipulation, we developed 2 algorithms. And the first identifies groups of users with unusual, closely connected interactions. And the second one detects users with sudden, unusual increases in their reputation. And our goal was to automate detection, enabling scalable monitoring across millions of users. However, we face challenges due to the lack of detailed voting data, which platforms like Stack Overflow keep private for user privacy. Okay, in this slide, we will cover algorithm 1 that focus on suspicious community detection. And these algorithms it's working with consider all SO user, gather all user who have answered each other's question in a round-robin fashion, and create a graph based on extracted user, and detect communities after that. And these algorithms includes 3 versions. For example, Graph Community version 1, Graph Community version 2, and Graph Community version 3, that each version is a separate algorithm and have its individual, has its independent approach for finding fraud users. So the first one, that is version 1, it's focused on isolated community whose members respond to a post of each other in a very short time, and the community has lots of links. The version 2, it's focused on isolated community that has lots of links and whose members respond to each other's posts and everyone in this community accepted each other's answer. And the version 3 of these algorithms, its focus is on isolated community, and the questions user ask and the answer they post are mostly similar to each other. If you want to see the step-by-step process of selecting suspicious communities, we can go through each of these pictures together to find out how these algorithms work. In figure A, we showed a hypothetical interaction graph of users where edges are drawn from question poster to ones who answer those questions. Figure B is the interaction graph of figure A. In this figure, we could see user and edges with at least one round-robin interaction, and deleting the edges and user where all the interactions are one-directional. And the final form of interaction graph of user used in our analysis where at least one round-robin interaction among user is presented in figure C that you can see in here. Figure D is the first stage of detecting communities based on round-robin interaction. In the second stage, we just choose the isolated communities, so we could see the finalized set of isolated communities used in the studies in figure E. And the process of analyzing isolated communities based on GC version 1, GC version 2, and GC version 3 has been shown in figure F. And you can see the result of selected isolated communities as suspicious communities by algorithm 1, GC version 1, GC version 2, and GC version 3 in the figure G. In this slide, you can see one of the example, and this example is about similar contents of two questions that were posted by user detected by, for example, our algorithm GC version 3, and it was acknowledged by Stack Overflow platform management team. It is a real example, actually. Algorithm 2, it was algorithm 3 that includes 3 version, and now we are just reaching to algorithm 2. This algorithm detects users whose reputation scores jump abnormally in short time period. So in here you can see the more detail of this algorithm. In this section, we introduced an algorithm designed to detect this algorithm is helpful when fraud is not linked to specific communities, but instead involves individual user exploiting the reputation system, such as through voting rigs or bounty gaming. To identify this user, we calculate the change in reputation between 2 times points and compare it to the average changes observed in active users. If a user's reputation increase is much higher than the average, we label them as suspicious. So this method allows us to detect abnormal reputation growth, even when the fraud is not immediately visible in community interaction. And because there isn't any baseline, we compare our algorithm against 2 baselines, both based on changes in reputation scores. The first baseline analyzes users whose reputation scores showed an upward jump into Stack Overflow data dumps, and we call this baseline BU, and the second baseline analyzes user whose reputation score dropped in the most recent data dump compared to the previous data dump. We call this baseline BD. For both baseline, we only consider Stack Overflow users whose change in a score is more than the average. In this slide, you can see the different configuration of algorithm 1. So for each of the version 1, version 2, and version 3, we consider a different configuration. You can see, for example, a different threshold for number of link of a community. You can see the different value for the time threshold, different value for the similarity threshold. And so we consider all of these. But finally, we just selected some of these cases to find and calculate precision recall for them. We analyzed just 6 highlighted cases in this table to compute the performance of the algorithm 1. The cases are selected for some reason. For example, the more links existed between user in an isolated community in which all users had accepted each other's answer, and the more engaged those users are to increase their reputation score within that community. Or, for example, a suspicious community could be highly engaged but isolated within short time to answer each other's question. And a user in a suspicious community can pose similar questions and answer multiple times. So these are the cases that we selected to calculate precision recall and the other metrics for them. In this table, we show the overall performance of our algorithm for each selected case from the previous table. Each case performed better one F1 score than the 2 baseline among the 6 cases. The case C9 showed the best performance. This case looks at isolated communities of users with at least 8 edges, which shows that the community's users have a lot of communication with each other and answered each other's question in a very short time, in less than 24 hours. We show the coverage of suspicious reputation fraud that we could assess using stack overflow in each community detected by the 6 cases in this slide. For instance, if we want to, what is the mean of this table? For instance, if we consider case C4 in this table, we could find 29 suspicious communities by which. But if you see the column greater than 1G, it shows that at least one member of 34.5% of suspicious communities detected by C4 had reputation fraud. Or if you see the column 1 greater than 100%, it shows that all the members of 34.5% of suspicious communities detected by C4 had reputation fraud, and so on. In this slide, you can see the different configuration of algorithm 2. And the first threshold, C1, points us to the user whose reputation growth is more than the average by twice the standard deviation of the growth. The highest standard deviation is due to the user above 90th percentile with a score much more than the rest of the user. And the reputation growth of the user around the 99 percentile, in case C2, is around 65 times more than the average growth. And the user around 100 percentile, that is case C3, it shows an incredible at least 130 times more growth than the average growth. So these are the configuration that we consider for algorithm 2. And we randomly selected some users from the previous cases to find the precision recall and F1 score for them. And the performance of algorithm 2 increases as we look at the user with more unusual reputation growth. Case C3 shows the best precision, followed by C2 and then C1. Both C2 and C3 shows better performance than the 6 cases analyzed for algorithm 1, and all the cases shows better performance than the baseline. In summary, while reputation jumps do impact the identification of suspicious activities, their influence appears to level off after reaching a certain threshold. In this slide, we want to discuss a bit about the feedback from that we got from Stack Overflow. We had a productive meeting with the Stack Overflow team where we shared our findings. They acknowledged the cases of reputation fraud they identified and suggested improvement, and also highlighted their ongoing efforts to enhance data analytics for better fraud detection. It's worth noting that some of their detection algorithms are still not fully automated. In this slide, you can see the implication of findings from the designer's perspective. The algorithms we developed help detect suspicious reputation growth, and these algorithms can be combined with Stack Overflow's current detection mechanism to improve fraud detection and prevent persistent exploitation. From the user's point of view, we can see that reputation fraud lowers content quality and reduces trust in the community as user manipulated votes and bounties, and this harms the platform's integrity and lowering the visibility of high quality posts and creating a negative user experience. And from the perspective of researchers, we can see that as Stack Overflow is widely used in software engineering research, reputation fraud can distort data used for content recommendation, API documentation, and review system. Researchers must be aware of these issues to ensure the reliability of their findings. We acknowledge some validity threats in our research. While our analysis addresses key fraud patterns, there's a potential to expand by exploring other search queries or forums. Testing with different time frames for data dumps could also provide additional insights. To ensure objectively, we minimized experimenter bias by conducting reality analysis and varying algorithms configuration, and the alignment of our result with Stack Overflow fraud detection increases confidence in our findings. And finally, our fraud detection mainly use Stack Overflow's reputation dashboard to track activities that affect reputation scores. However, some fraudulent activities may not have been captured, and there may be other forms of manipulation we didn't detect. In conclusion, we conducted an in-depth study of Stack Overflow to identify how reputation system can be manipulated. We found 4 main fraud scenarios, such as voting ring, bounty gaming, revenge voting, and closing ring. To address these, for example, how users manipulate the system to increase their reputation, we conducted 2 algorithms. One detects suspicious communities, and the other identifies users with rapid reputation increases. These algorithms outperform existing methods, providing a reliable tool for detecting fraud. And also our findings have implications for forum designers, user, and software engineers, and helping them better understand and detect a reputation fraud. And moving forward, we aim to develop tools that can inform users and stakeholders like hiring managers about potential frauds and help identify through expert in developers forum. And the final note is that reinforcing trust in online technical communities is crucial for their success. And I couldn't cover all the results of our study because our time in here is really short. There are lots of tables about the statistics about the reputation of users. So if you'd like to know more information about those results, you can search this paper and go through it to find out those information. Thank you for your attention to this presentation.
Thank you very much, Iren. That was a great presentation. If anyone has any questions, Bram, I guess we'll start with you.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, great presentation. So I got like two questions. Actually, one of it, well, two questions. Yes, one question about the current work. One other question, maybe extension, maybe. So the current works, I was just not sure. So the evaluation. So was there like a set of known fraud cases that you had, or was the evaluation mostly checking whether for
Yeah,
outsides it looked like this, or so yeah.
for example, we run some queries on the Meta Stack Exchange sites and gather some posts and go through each post to find out, for example, the discussion of users in these platforms. For example, they said that, oh, there is a bunch of the group of people that getting their reputation like this way, and there are a bunch of users that getting the reputation like this way. So there isn't any supervision about their activities. So we want to go through all this discussion and labeled all of these like open card sorting, label all of these. And we also reached to the 6 type of reputation, but actually after the meeting with a Stack Overflow team, we deleted some of them and we just reached to the 4 type of reputation fraud. But all of this is based on our findings. There isn't anything like this category that we can, for example, add these scenarios to them, or there isn't existing scenarios in Stack Overflow about the fraud scenarios.
Okay, cool. And because like yeah, recently there's been a lot of talks about another kind of fraud is basically using LLMs to kind of generate answers, putting them and then claiming them as their answers. So did you find any traces of that?
No, we didn't go through this one.
We go. Maybe the answers are so good that it's
Yeah,
hard to distinguish.
yeah. Thank you for your insight.
Very cool. Hey, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bram. Does anyone else have any questions for Iren before we move on to Yang? Diego, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the talk. I kind of jumped in the middle of the talk, so I kind of missed the beginning, but I was fascinated by you approaching the Stack Overflow team, right? Which is usually something that we see quite rare, is that researchers approach actually the platform maintainers to actually try to get to the bottom of this and maybe even implement the solutions or the strategies that you identify. Can you talk us a little bit more about that? How did you reach to the team? How was their openness in talking to you about this? And any particular thing that they were more interested about in terms of implementing in Stack Overflow? Thank you.
Thank you so much. For example, because these studies, when we start these studies and find this result, there isn't any baseline that we could compare our findings with them. So we decided to reach the Stack Overflow team and had a talk with them because their acknowledgement is really great for us. So we try searching to the LinkedIn and finding their, for example, the CEO of the company, and having talked with them and reaching them by, for example, email. And after that, we share our findings with them. So after several conversations by the email, they decided to provide us a meeting to have a conversation. So in that meeting, there was about, I think, 4 or 6 people about, for example, different part of the company. And we had a presentation with them. We showed them our result and the real examples that we found. And they also checked by their system and found that, oh yeah, this, for example, this user had some reputation fraud before. And for now and for this study, we just go through the history of reputation of users that we can find the reverse or reversal tag in the reputation history. And if there can find something like that, we can say that this user is suspicious. But Stack Overflow team didn't provide the information about the voting ring and something like with us. They didn't talk about their algorithms they used, but they just mentioned that some of the algorithms is not automatically completely, and it can help them to find and understand, for example, that this kind of algorithm can help the algorithm too.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's very fascinating. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, does anyone have a question for Iren? If not, I think we should maybe move on to our second speaker. Going once, going twice? No? Okay, thank you very much, Iren. That was a really great
Thank you
presentation.
so much.
And congratulations on the journal publication too.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will call on Yang next to go ahead and share your screen and begin your presentation.
Okay, thank you. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. My research topic is adversary attack classification and robustness testing for code generation models. And I will start from the motivation. The motivation.
Sorry, excuse me, Yang, sorry to interrupt. Would you be able to make it full screen so we can see just your slide? Right now we can see your whole desktop.
Okay, okay. Wait a moment. Now it's better?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, I will start from the motivation. The motivation behind this research is that existing studies have often overlooked the necessary to strengthen defense against a broad spectrum of sophisticated adversary inputs. Code generation models are valuable because they rely heavily on patterns learned from training data, which makes them susceptible to adversary perturbations that can exploit these learned patterns. Such models often lack the ability to adequately handle unexpected inputs or minor changes, resulting in incorrect or insecurity as code output. Adversary attacks on code generation models can lead to incorrect output so that it poses risk to software quality and security. These models are increasingly used in real-world development environments. Ensure their robustness is important, and maintain the integrity of software system. Additionally, as code generation models become more integrated into software development workflows, and ensure their robustness against adversary attack is very important to yeah. And the code generation models are a type of machine learning model trained to assist in writing, generating, and understanding computer code. These models are typically pre-trained on large data sets of code from many different programming languages, allowing them to understand syntax, semantics, and common programming patterns. They are designed to support developments by automating tasks such as code generation, code completion, code translation, bug detection, and vulnerability identification. And here are some examples on code generation models. They are called llamas and code gen encoder and llama 3 and GPT-Gen. And Adversarial attacks are deliberate modification made to the input data of a model with the goal of causing the model to make errors. In the context of code generation, and these attacks involve altering code or related descriptions in a way that confuses the model, leading to incorrect or insecurity code generation. These attacks are important to address because they can explore weakness in the model, resulting in security problem and degrade the performance or software failures. Adversarial attacks can be designed to exploit these models, resulting in incorrect or insecurity code outputs. In this research, we explored how these attacks or perturbations impact code generation models and how we can classify and mitigate them. And here is an examples. Here is examples about the code completion task. When we change the variable name from A to argc, it might generate different functions, and maybe some functions cannot work. So in this case, the model performs. We say the model performs the bad robustness. And here is about the problem statement in my paper. The problem statement in my paper is that adversarial attacks pose a significant threat to code generation models, affecting their robustness and ability to generate functional code. They were influenced by attacking code part, the task description part, or we can say the natural language part, and the comments in the code. So in order to solve this problem, I refer to classification of natural language problem. I classify the attacks or the perturbations at 3 levels because for some programming languages such as Python and Java, in fact, they are very similar to the natural language. I think this classification can work not only in NLP, but also in code generation. And here are some types of perturbations in my research, and also here I give some definitions to them and classify them into 3 levels. And here are some examples of perturbations. And the first one is about the character level. As it shows, we change the variable name from A to S. Yeah. And the second one is about the word level. Which we change the variable name from the var to nice. And these two are about the statement level. The first one is inserting the dead code, and the second one is changing the loop from for loop to while loop. Actually, if we run this function, we will know it will not change the result or the output. But when we did the test, we say if we do these perturbations, the robustness of models will be influenced. So here are the 3 research questions. And the first one is how does altering code at various granularity levels affect the model's ability to generate functional correct code. And the second one is how the modifications in natural language description at different levels influence the functional accuracy. And the third one is how does changing comments within the code impact the accuracy and functionality? And these three questions correspond to our problem statement we mentioned before. And here is the overview of the proposed approach. We get our models and data sets and benchmarks or the tools from GitHub and Hugging Face. The record is an evaluation benchmark, and it also provides some perturbation data set. OpenAttack is an attack tool to attack natural language. So we use it to make some new perturbated data set. And the data sets we used are human evil and MBPP. And the models include the CodeGen encoder, Llama 3, and Llama 2. We use them to help us to answer the research questions. Here are the results. I used methods shown in a GitHub project called recode and reclassify them as 3 levels. And first, I want to introduce the metrics, the pass at 1, or we can say pass at k. Pass at k is a metric used to evaluate the performance of code generation models. It measures the probability that at least one of the top k generated outputs is correct, and providing a sense of the model's ability to generate correct solution within multiple attempts. In our study, we set k equals to 1, so it's passed at 1. And the second metric is drop. The drop refers to the decrease in performance or accuracy of the model when it is subjected to adversarial attack or modification or perturbation. And it helps in understanding how much the model's robustness is compromised. And the third one is relative. The relative refers to comparative measure used to determine the effectiveness or impact of adversary attacks by comparing performance metrics before and after the perturbations. We rank the metrics. We rank the passed 1 as the most important metrics, and followed by drop, and the last one is relative because the drop and the relative actually is calculated based on the passed 1. And about the arrow, the upper arrow means the higher the value is, the better the robustness is, and the down arrow is the lower the value is, the better the robustness is. And the table shows the GPT-J6B and evaluated by human evil dataset. From the table, and we calculate the median value here, and from the results, I get following conclusions. The models are most robust to sentence level perturbation, followed by character level perturbation, and the word level perturbation is the most detrimental to performance. And about research question 2, because I use some attack models in NLP to get some new perturbative data set, and also some data sets are from recode. Okay. From this table, we can get the conclusion that what level modifications severely impair most models and task comprehension, while models show comparatively greater robustness with sentence level perturbation. And about RQ3, because in the data sets, there are low comments in the code part, so I insert comments randomly and also use a perturbation method in recode called the dark2 comments. So there is only sentence level perturbations, and the result shows both the placement and the content of comments can adversely affect the model's interpretations and output quality. This result is different from what I thought. So in the future, we will do more research to explore how comments will have influence on code generation. Okay. In conclusion, our key findings are first, what level modification were found to be the most detrimental to models' performance, and this severely impaired the model's ability to comprehend and generate accurate code. Also, changing keywords or important parts of the task description also will lead to incorrect or incomplete code output, demonstrating the sensitivity of models to what level change. And secondly, models showed comparatively higher robustness against statement level modification. And this means that while changing entire lines or altering the structure impacted output will impact the output quality, and the models could still maintain a reasonable level of accuracy. And thirdly, changes in comments also affected in the model's performance. Incorrect or misleading comments often lead to poor interpretation and incorrect code generation, indicating that even long executable parts of code can impact functionality. And about this study, here are some limitations. Firstly, is the limited perturbation types we explored, and the second one is the specific data sets and models we used. Maybe it's not they are not represented the diversity of real-world programming environment, and and it also potentially lacks generalizability across different programming contexts, and the inherent complexity of adversarial text is not full captured. So in the future work, we will expand our perturbations and in this drift classification and the development of a more granular metrics and improving the robustness of the models. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Yang. We'll start the questions off again with Bram. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, and thanks for the presentation. So yeah, so I could definitely see the link with robustness, like how robust is the model to like kind of perturbations. But I had some trouble understanding the link with attacks and adversarial attacks. Can you explain a bit like how such an attack would work, like, and what's the goal of these attacks?
Uh, Sorry, and could you repeat your question?
Sure.
I
Yeah.
forget.
So sure. So the title says adversarial attack classification
Yeah,
and robustness testing. So the robustness testing is clear that you do the perturbations, how
yeah,
robust is the model, but
yeah.
the adversarial attack part, that was not clear. Like how do these, like who's doing this perturbation and why do they want to do this attack? That was not clear to me.
Uh, you mean the threat model, or you mean
Yes.
okay. We guess the situation in like we can say maybe in a company the uh someone want to uh use the generate the code generation models, and maybe they will do some type errors. It can be a type of perturbation, and also maybe in a company other hackers wanna hack into the company and want them to generate a wrong code or something. They can hack in the data set and or hack in the code generation models process, and maybe they will do some perturbations or do some do some attacks on the input part. So
Hmm.
is this
Hmm.
is this so answer your question?
So I'm not sure. So it feels like so. I think if you motivate work based on the robustness part and how robust is it to like maybe developers making mistakes themselves in the code they provide, that definitely works.
Yeah.
But I think the motivation based on the attacks, I'm not sure. It needs some work to get like some concrete. I'm not an expert in thing, but I see a hard time thinking like a realistic case where people would attack like this. I mean, unless you mean that they attack by uh, manipulating, perturbing the training data of the model somehow. And somehow they get access to that, and then the model that's trained on bad data, and that's impacting everybody. But I'm not sure that's exactly what you're looking at. But anyway, that's just a thing to think about. But just to how to better motivate that part.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to Junji next and then Anirban, please.
Okay. Thank you, Yang. Very good presentation. I have a question about how do you do this perturbation? Like for this page as an example, when you like refactoring the variable, like which technique do you use, or you do it manually?
In fact, there are many tools in GitHub to help us to do this kind of preparation. Like, there is I remember there is um, a project in GitHub called the Latin. Yes, another one another one I forgot the name, but it focuses on to change the function name. So in fact, there are many tools to help us to do the perturbations on GitHub. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Junji. Anirban, please go ahead, and then Samuel.
Yeah, thank you. Great presentation. I just had a thing, if you could clarify. So, which is kind of connected to Professor Adams' later half of the question. Is it like, so you mentioned you used Llama 2 and Llama 3 as the models, right, in your study?
Code Llama 2 and Llama 3, they are different.
Yeah. Okay. And so did you like fine tune these models and then you saw how this input data affected the output, or is it something you did with the prompts and not by modifying the models itself?
I didn't modify the models. I only change the input and do the perturbation on the input data set.
Right. In that case, like unless the user itself is prompting something that goes into the sentence level or the granularities that you have classified, the model is not generating any adversarial code, right? Any wrong code, right? So it's up to the user how he is prompting it. Is that correct?
Yeah, and because it depends on how the users to input the prompt, and because it's not the code generation models can not only used in the code generation, also can do some code completion. So maybe in your prompt, they are a part of the code, and the model can help you to complete the code. And maybe the code you input, there are some like the variable name. Different people will name the different variable names. So maybe this can confuse the models to confuse the models and to generate a wrong code or some something like this.
Okay, and when you were comparing Code Llama and Llama 3, did you see a big difference in the
Very big difference, because in fact Code Llama 3, I thought it will have a very good performance, but in fact it's not. Even the performance is worse than the is worse than the GPT and worse than the code gen. Yeah, maybe I mean the robustness not. I didn't test the quality, so I'm not sure about that part. But because code Llama is focused on code, I think the performance will be better, but actually not. Maybe it's overfit or something. Yeah.
one final question is so I know the adversarial attacks, there's a list, the sort of patterns I think that is released by a community, right? Where we can like know all the types of this. So if we were to, let's say, fine tune a model, right, and which would preemptively recognize the issues within the code that you have given as a prompt, and it would correct it. Would that be a good solution in the future works, let's say?
Yeah, this is what I'm doing now, and I tried a method, fine-tuning method. I say when I feed the cultivated samples to the model, the performance actually be worse, and no matter I feed the original sample or the perturbated sample, the result is very bad. I'm wondering whether is the problem of the methods the fine-tuning method or the parameters, because in fact if the models learn from the fine-tuning process, it should be low. This is a type error, and it will generate the correct code. I think it's this way, but I'm still testing this kind of things. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, we're going to squeeze in 2 quick questions. First Samuel and then Shaima to finish off.
Okay, thank you, Jan, for the nice presentation. So my question is, from my observation and also what has been reported in literature, is these language models are mostly non-deterministic in the sense that when you give it an input, the next time you give it the same input and the output could be different. So did you consider that? I saw that in your evaluation you used pass at 1, but did you also consider the non-deterministic nature of these models? Understand? Maybe you try some majority vote criterion where you give it the input multiple times and see if for all the different times it's giving the same output or different outputs for the different times.
First I repeat use the same perturbative data set, and I still get the same metrics in value in different metrics. Yeah, and I also use the different data set to do the test, and the conclusion is the same.
Yeah. So yeah, that I think it would be a good thing to also report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Shaima, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Anne, for a great presentation. My question is about the third research questions. How does changing the command affect the attack? I want to ask, does changing the syntax of the command, like the formatting or the language, affect the model differently than altering the semantic, like the meaning or context in this way?
So you mean research question 3 or?
Yes, the research questions here about.
Okay. Yeah. In fact, in this way, we want to do some perturbation on the comments. In fact, the comments will not will have no influence on the task description and the code function. So I thought comments will not the perturbation on comments will not have influence on the robustness, but actually when we add the comments in the code part, we say the robustness being very bad, like this one, the randomly insert comments in this way. You can say the pass at K is very low and the drop is very high. So it means the robustness is very bad. Yeah.
Yes, but if the model can understand the context from the command, will that also still have the perturbation in one like fault typo in the function? If he had already like context in the comment.
Yeah. So I mentioned if needed, I will do more. I will try more perturbation methods in comments and to see the results and to explore this part of things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I'd like to take this opportunity to once again thank our two speakers, Iren and Yang from École Polytechnique. And also to wish everybody a very happy holidays. I know some of you are traveling in the near future, so safe travels. And we look forward to seeing your faces again. We're going to take a brief 1-month break in January from the trainee talks, but there will be an industry speaker talk coming on January 23rd. So please keep that date in mind, and I'll be sending information about it soon to all of you. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, Lori.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good holiday.